Hello there, YouTube. Devin here again with another helmet video for you and for your World War II fans out there and Korean War fans, and for quite a long time afterwards, actually. You're going to be pretty happy with this video, I believe, because it's going to have a lot of corrections from my older version on this video. There's a lot of research that has since come out on this helmet. A lot of stuff was kind of confirmed. There was a lot of stuff on this helmet that was kind of in limbo. That being the turtle helmet. So the turtle helmet right here is a British designed helmet that was designed to replace the Brodie helmet. And this is my Mark II Brodie, which we will be comparing the Mark III turtle helmet, which is actually 3, 4, and 5. They're all, Marks 3, 4, and 5 in helmets are all turtle helmets. But we're going to go over some of the differences between a Mark III, a Mark IV, and a Mark V. And a bunch of other stuff. This is actually a Mark V, and then there's actually a fourth Mark and a Belgian-made version that we're going to go over as well. So, with that being said, this helmet was designed to replace the Brodie in 1941. It was made by the Medical Research Board of Britain, and it was designed to improve protection overall from the Brodie, as well as designed to be kind of simpler to manufacture and much more user-friendly. This helmet is 38% more effective overall, according to the Medical Research Board. It is 12% more protective overall as far as coverage. It is 15% more effective horizontally, and it is 11% more effective vertically from debris and shrapnel, which is a huge improvement over the very antiquated design by the time of World War II as the Brodie helmet. The Brodie helmet was designed to sit fairly high on the head and work from mostly overhead protection, because it was designed for use in the trenches of World War I, where the rest of your bodily protection comes from a parapet and or trench in front of you like this. So the only thing you needed to worry about was really stuff falling down on top of you from above that's churned up by artillery and explosions and other stuff like that. So this helmet was designed more with kind of modern warfare and doctrine of the time involved, where you're not really hunkering down in a trench. So this was a huge upgrade in protection from the Mark II Brodie helmet. Albeit, it was designed in 1941, but you don't start seeing them made until late 1943, it would turn out. The very first time these were ever going to be used in combat would be the D-Day landings by the British and Canadian forces there. The Mark III would have had the same liner and attachment method as the Mark II. So it had a little rivet or a dome nut or something like that up there, and the same exact liner, and these chin strap bales right here would be up a little higher. That would be the Mark III. The Mark III was quickly decided that, well, we can improve this design even more, and in 1944 they basically stopped production on the Mark III. So the Mark IIIs are a little bit more rare, and a lot of them were upgraded to the Mark IV and the Mark V pattern eventually. So an original Mark III is kind of difficult to find. Now you can find a Mark III or a Mark IV. Those are both correct for World War II. The whole length of World War II from D-Day onward, Mark IIIs and Mark IVs are good to use for your impression or something like that. But eventually the Mark V pattern would be superseding it. So it would have had your standard like oilcloth liner of the Mark II, and it would have been held in place with a rivet or a dome nut here at the top. That's the only place where the liner is held in, is with this little rivet or dome nut you can find at the top. Now, the problem with it was kind of annoying to change the liner out if the liner became damaged in the helmet or anything like that. So they would quickly in 1944 develop the Mark IV helmet. Now the Mark IV helmet is basically the same exact helmet shell as the Mark III. It even takes the same liner as the Mark III and the Mark II. The difference was these chin strap bales are moved down to this position where they currently are, much lower on the rim of the helmet. And the dome nut and or rivet at the top was replaced with a lift the dot stud. So the helmet liner can just be removed by pulling out one single lift the dot female snap end, and the whole liner drops out of the helmet, which is good because that doubles this helmet to be used as a transport method with its chin strap, which is elasticized. The elastic in this helmet chin strap is worn out, and I'll get to the liner in this one later because this is actually a Mark V, but it started its life as a Mark IV. So the chin strap, obviously, in this one is elasticated. The elastic, like I said, is entirely worn out in this helmet, which isn't uncommon. But you could take the liner out by removing that single lift the dot stud down there you see in the crown pad, and this thing is a bucket. It's a water transport pail. You can use it for bailing water out of your foxhole without ruining your helmet liner or getting your helmet wet, and then you could just pop the liner right back in and call it good. Now, those helmets would be used all the way through World War II and into Korea and stuff like that. You could see them. Eventually, they would be updated to what is called the Mark V pattern. Now, the Mark V pattern is this pattern you see here, where you get a new liner upgrade. And basically, they take these liners out of the Mark IIIs and IVs, and they just put these in. They're a little bit more comfortable. They offer a little bit more blast protection. They're a much more flexible liner than the old ones, and they have these big foam pads all the way around the circumference, and this kind of scrunchy wool material liner with foam pads behind that even, which is going to help you dissipate some of that impact onto the shell of the helmet from being transferred into the skull and subsequent brain of the person wearing it. So it was a just by changing the liner, they offered a huge upgrade in protection. So, and everything like that. This helmet would obviously serve into the 80s and with reserves into the 90s and some very, very reserve troops, 2000s even, where it would slowly be replaced by the Mark VI helmet. Now, there is two versions of this helmet you can find that are really British. There is a Mark IV Belgian pattern. Now, the Belgian patterns, their chin strap hardware and stuff, it's going to be kind of hard to tell, but you often find their chin strap hardware with rust and stuff on it, where you won't on the British helmets, because the British ones are made out of stainless, the Belgian ones are not. The Belgian helmets are also slightly longer than the British designed ones, and then you can find an India pattern turtle helmet that is basically the same thing as this, but you can find them without a rim, and they were just designed to be much easier to produce, and the Indians really didn't care enough to roll the steel rim on them and stuff like that when they were making them. So, but now we will flip the camera around here, take a look at the liner, comparing it to the Mark II and all that other stuff, go over some similarities and some differences, talk more about the history, and then we'll flip the camera back around. I'll put the helmet on, show you what it would look like with its camouflage net and other stuff that you would see pretty commonly put on it, and then we will conclude the video. So stay tuned for that. Alrighty, so here we go. We have the Mark II here on the left and the turtle helmet on the right, which represents the 3, 4, and 5. I'm really good that I have the Mark V liner in this because the Mark III and the 4 liner are the same as this. So as you can see, the differences in the liner and obviously the shell shape and everything like that. So you can see that this helmet, while resting on its dome, the Mark II sits much, much lower than the Mark III helmet does, which is a huge increase in protection, as you can see. Now, the Mark IIIs initially would have been painted this kind of same color, this green olive drab type color, and later you would see that the British would change theirs to this kind of dark brown color. That's common, that's correct. The India pattern ones and the Belgian ones you can find are different colors. Oftentimes you can find these with field applied paint and a bunch of other weird type stuff like that, but you can see here how the liners would have been originally in the turtle helmets. They would have been the same as this. You can see this kind of oilcloth type sweatband and stuff like that, the foam crown pad with the dome nut and everything like that in this design. It would have been a fairly common way to have your liner in the Mark IIIs and the Mark IVs. The difference would be obviously with the Mark IVs, like I said, they would switch to the the lift the dot style liner, as you could see there, and the stud would just come out. So the whole liner is one piece, just like on the Mark II. And then they would come out with this, the Mark V liner, which is a huge upgrade. So you can see here that the pads are much larger on the Mark V, which is better for your impact protection. The crown pad is also much thicker at the crown of the Mark V. And then you can see this kind of scrunchy wool type liner, and underneath that you can see that there is even more foam to protect the user. So now the liners on these can be kind of a pain to move. You can see that there's a little tab right here that says lift, and then there you go, boom. And then the whole liner can just come right out of the helmet if you so choose, just like that. Here you go. So I don't want to take it all the way out because then it's going to be a pain to kind of put back in, but this is what the liner and crown pad would look like. So, and there's the tag for the liner. See, and then there you go. Your helmet can now just be used as a bucket or whatever you desire it to be. So the Mark II works on the same principle, where this would be the liner. It's got this kind of like fiberboard type, kind of crown pad type stuff here. For what the suspension's made out of, and then there's all these little arms with these foam pads on them that reach down to provide the impact protection to the wearer. Now the Mark II and the Mark III initially would have had a liner that was a lot harder to kind of remove, because you would have to have a screwdriver or a coin or something to undo this big screw, but their liner comes out in one big piece, and it's kind of the same way. It doesn't have as many arms on it as this type liner. As you can see, there's only 4 little compressed fiber arms on these, which doesn't support the head as nice, basically. And the liner is also kind of a much more rigid, and these foam pads are much harder than on the Mark IV helmet and stuff like that. So you would see that these helmets would serve, like I said, for an incredibly long time with the British, even longer for the Indians and stuff like that. The Canadians would return all of their Mark IIIs and IVs by the end of World War II, pretty much right after. They would go again in Korea, be issued these from British stocks along with the Mark II. The Mark II would serve with the Mark III and IV helmets all the way through World War II. And all the way through Korea. You can see a lot of Canadians wearing Mark IIs in Korea. You could also find them wearing Mark IIIs and IVs, and you could also find them even wearing American M1s. So that would be a pretty common thing to see, obviously, for quite a long time. But Canada wouldn't ever really formally adopt the Mark III and IV helmets. They would stick out with the Mark IIs, because after Korea, this would be their kind of standard helmet until they would get M1s from America. So that is an in-depth look at the liners of the 3-4 style of turtle helmet, and then this would be the liner in the Mark V turtle helmet. So now I'm going to reassemble this helmet. I'm going to go, the cover sitting off screen over there, the net I mean, and then we're going to put this all back together, put the net on it, and I'm going to show you how it looks compared to the Mark II being worn, and how the coverage differences you could see from all different angles, whether it bites when you go prone and stuff like that, and how carefully it was designed with the user in mind. So stay tuned for that. All right, we are back at the front view of the helmet now. Back to being off the liner comparison. I have reassembled my my turtle helmet. I've put the cover back on it, the two-tone net cover, and then just for good relief, it was pretty common, this is how I display it, Korean War dated bandage underneath the cover. Oftentimes you would see that kind of stored here in the back where this big swoop comes down, but I kind of like it on the side. I kind of like stuff on the sides of my helmets, because then when I am, you try to sleep, you can have a nice kind of flat back part of the helmet to rest on, and it doesn't kink your neck as much. And then if you put stuff on the sides, you also got padding to just slap your head into the sides of stuff, which would have been pretty common during transport. So we're going to now compare this to the Mark II. So we'll show you from the front here, and I'm going to do just a quick flip around for the Mark II. The Mark II is going to have its own video once I get a Mark I Brody. Again, So we're just going to do a quick once around. We're going to show you how the Mark II looks being worn from a bunch of different angles and all the other good stuff. And then I'm going to simulate going prone, where I have to look way high up in the sky behind me to see how the helmet would react to the back of your neck and with body armor. So I'm going to put the chin strap down, and we will do that. So here we have the front profile, the side profile, the right side profile, sorry. Here we have the rear profile. As you can see, incredibly high cut helmet. Doesn't even come halfway down on my head. Incredibly high cut. Now the cool thing about the Brody is you do have a lot of freedom for how you could wear it. You see a lot of soldiers, as I've done in a video, you see them wearing it like this. So that way when you go to like hunker down in an explosion, the rim is covering your neck. You know, and stuff like that. Or when you're lying prone, you can tip the helmet up, or you could tip it to the side so it doesn't interfere with your rifle, depending on whatever side you shoot on. That's a very versatile feature of the Brody helmets that you don't get in a lot of other helmets. But it's normal configuration, being worn just standing. When you look up, as you can see, it doesn't even get close to biting. It wouldn't interfere with lots of body armor, even though this was at a time when body armor really didn't exist. And then we will flip it around and do the left side profile. So a lot of people don't know that, but yeah, the Brody is designed to be worn a bunch of different strange cocked angles. A lot of people in pictures were doing it just for like the fun of it, obviously, but it served a purpose. You see a lot of soldiers in trenches and stuff like that, and during World War I, wearing their helmets like this, way on the back of their head, because you still get the protection from the front. It doesn't obscure your vision or hearing as much. And then when you go to, like I said, when an explosion goes off and you go to like hunker down, you know, to try to protect your neck and your head, you're actually, because you tend to lean forward when you hunker down, the helmet becomes parallel with the ground and will cover you the most. Whereas if you're wearing it normal and you go to hunker down, you can see you're leaving your whole neck exposed to that debris. So that's a cool feature of the Brody a lot of people really don't know, and one of the reasons why I absolutely love it. It is kind of a weird design and something that wasn't really part of the design, but that is how they were oftentimes used, and turned out that is a very effective feature of the Brody helmet. So now I'll fix my hair here. We're going to do the same thing, but with the turtle helmet. And it's worn out elasticated chin strap. This would have been much like my Mark II, but my Mark II is Canadian and this is British. So the Canadians must have used a lot nicer elastic in their helmets, because the elastic's still really good in this helmet chin strap. And it is an original one too. It's not a reproduction one. So there's an original Canadian chin strap from the early 40s. And you can find turtle helmets with that chin strap on them. I've seen pictures of them, especially in Korea, along with Canadian troops. The Canadian troops tended to be the ones to do that because they didn't have access to these chin straps if their helmet was to break. You would see their Mark IIIs and IVs oftentimes get fixed with Mark II chin straps if their chin strap did break, which this is just a big long elasticated strap, as you probably saw when we had the camera filter on. The big long tail of that was, you could loop it multiple times through the chin strap bales, or you could be like me and just kind of wrap it around the liner, which keeps it from adjusting too much afterwards, because the elastic obviously has worn out. Mine doesn't adjust anymore, but you could very commonly find that being a thing, either running it back, doubling it back on itself, or just running it through the liner basically to keep it from moving too much. And this would have been a much better option of a chin strap, I think, than this, because it's self-adjusting and it's a much more durable chin strap. So just my opinion, but I could see why they went with this too. It was very cheap to manufacture and very easy to make. So, but here's the front profile of the turtle helmet with its cover, and then here is the right side profile of the helmet with its cover. Then here is the rear helmet. Now this is a cool feature because you still have a lot of the benefits of the Brody helmet in the turtle helmet, because it's still a pretty high design, so you can still rock it back on your head to cover the back of your neck. If there's an explosion or something, you need to like hunker down, you're protecting the back of your neck. You want to keep your helmet when you go prone or hunker down parallel with the ground for the most part to protect the back of your neck. The back of your neck is actually the Achilles heel of the body. This is a very important part you need to protect. And so the British helmet's designed very, very well to do that without interfering or hurting the soldier or operator while you're doing that. So you can rock the helmet back in order to protect your neck from a blast or something when you're out and about in the field. Or you could wear it perfectly flat if you're in a defensible position. So where you're going to have parapets and cover protecting you from the horizontal ways. And then obviously the left side profile, and then back to the front. So I absolutely love this helmet. I think it's a fantastically designed helmet. It has a really, really cool story. It offers very, very much increased protection to the Brody, but still offering a lot of the benefits of the Brody. It doesn't really obstruct your hearing, doesn't really obstruct your vision. It used a lot of the same parts as far as like liners would go for most of its life, and it took the same cover. Can take the same chin strap. It was a very innovative helmet, but still increasing the protection and coverage without adding really any more weight either. So a very, very well thought out helmet, a very, very well designed, innovative piece of history. And this helmet, like I said, would serve from basically 1943 into the 1990s. So that means it's pretty much on par with the American M1 helmet as far as service life. It's a fantastically designed helmet, an incredibly designed helmet. And if you had the ability to get one, I would get one. If you're looking for a World War II and Korea thing, I would very much probably say get a Mark IV. They are still out there. And the best part is if you have a Mark V like I do, like this, you can just get a Mark IV liner in your size and just pop it in. Because it's the same lift the dot at the top. So you can kind of switch it back and forth between whatever impression you're trying to do, whether it be Falklands or something like that. So hopefully you guys like this video and you subscribed if you like this sort of thing. I'm really, really glad that you guys stopped by and everything like that. I had a really, really awesome Christmas stream. Matthias and May stopped by in my Christmas stream, which was absolutely fantastic. I didn't know that they knew I existed. And I've talked to him a few times through emails and messages and whatnot, but they knew who I was immediately right away, and all that other good stuff. And if you haven't had a chance to support their channel, and if you love really, really, really long videos about guns where they cover a lot of the nerd details and stuff like that I like, and the engineering and the thought behind it and the research and design and all that other good stuff, their videos are incredibly fantastic to watch. I can't thank them enough for how much I've learned from watching them and how entertained I am for weeks and weeks and weeks on end watching their stuff. It is on the more boring side, but I'm a boring person, so I like that stuff. And if you like that stuff, that's oftentimes a very good first source I would go to if you have an old surplus gun from World War I. That's pretty much the era they've done so far, is World War I. And if you have an old surplus World War I gun you aren't sure about, I would go look through their playlists because it's going to save you a ton of money trying to figure out just the basic surface information and stuff, and a good in-depth history of your firearm rather than having to buy one of those incredibly expensive books. Ultimately, if you care about your gun enough, I would try to find the book on it. You're going to get way more out of the book than you will from Matthias and May, but they're a very, very good starting point if you're looking to get into firearms history and stuff like that. Just like I'm a very, very good starting point if you're looking to get into helmet history and all that good stuff. So thank you all for stopping by, you guys. Once again, Merry Christmas to you all. Happy New Year's if I don't see you guys before New Year's and all that other good stuff. Thank you so much to all of my Patreon members who've gone so far as upgrading my camera equipment and my editing software and everything throughout the year so far. I appreciate each and every one of you. And of course, if you want to join the cult, as I call it, which is the Discord, as little as $1 a month on Patreon can get you in there. There's a lot of really, really cool people and a lot of really, really neat stuff to see in there. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. Hopefully I can see you all in the next video, and hopefully 2021 will be much better than 2020. So see you all later. Bye-bye now.